Okay, we are live. Hi, everyone. Um, I need to pull up my YouTube side, but before I do that, I just want to welcome back HG. HG has been on this channel. Uh, this is going to be the third time. And in case anyone here has not been here for the other two times he was here, I just want to give you a little introduction on HG. H.G. Tudor is the world-renowned authority on narcissism and the prolific author of more than 40 books and programs. Mr. Tudor writes from his own perspective as a narcissist psychopath and delivers extensive knowledge on every aspect of dealing with a narcissist. Through his insightful lens, you will learn the true mindset, behaviors, and aims of the narcissist. Myths and false hopes will be extinguished and replaced with pure logic defenses. You will learn your role in each type of relationship with a narcissist and find detailed information on how you can best prepare to deal with and escape from narcissistic abuse. Knowledge is power, and with each book you read, you will at least have the answers you seek and you will become empowered with information you cannot obtain anywhere elsewhere. In my description, I have put the links to his channel, his website, which has over 26 million hits on it. He has a narc detector on there. You just really need to go to his website. There's a wealth of information that costs nothing. And then on top of that, I put the link to Amazon where he has over 40 books on Amazon. And of course, if you do want to ever have a consultation with him, a one-on-one consultation, kind of like what we're doing here, but I mean one-on-one, you can do that. And of course, that's on his website. And so I guess without further ado, we'll just get right into the questions. Welcome everybody in the side chat. If you have any questions, and if we still have time after the questions that I put out on my community page, we will get to those. Okay, Randy, why don't you ask the first question?
Okay, HG, you ready to jump right into it?
I certainly am, thank you.
Oh, what a voice. Just read the alphabet. We'll be okay. You don't even have to answer anything, as a matter of fact.
Oh, Randy.
Sorry. Okay. I won't. So, do you want me to read the person that asked the question or
Yeah,
just go right?
if their name is there, that means that it's their YouTube name, so we can recognize them. You know, you can say
Okay.
the name.
Okay. So, Ninja Orchid, she asked, which personality type, what characteristics are attracted to a narcissist? Which personality type? What character? That's not. You mean just let's just go with what personality type are is attracted to a narcissist.
Well, I categorize people for the purposes of understanding narcissism into 4 categories: empaths, normals, narcissistic people who are not narcissists, and narcissists. Now, all of those 4 categories can be attracted to a narcissist. Why? Well, 2 narcissists can collide because the narcissist sees that individual, and most narcissists are unaware, but would instinctively recognize that person can provide what's known as the prime aims: fuel, control, character traits, and residual benefits. So another narcissist can provide fuel to another narcissist. They can also be controlled. They can provide character traits. So you take a very successful individual who's a narcissist. Another narcissist comes along and instinctively is drawn to try and control that person, commandeer those character traits, get the residual benefits of money, access to networks, fame, for instance. So the attractors there are based upon the prime aims. So narcissist versus narcissist, both are seeking the prime aims from the other. Now, where it's narc-on-narc action, it's invariably, after a period of time, tempestuous, because they will clash, but not always. But that's something I'll move to perhaps deal with later. Otherwise, we'll go down a bit of a side avenue. Normal people can be attracted to a narcissist because a narcissist will present as personable, charming, interesting, fun, will mirror. However, with certain narcissists where they love bomb excessively, that normal person's likely to go, this is a bit too much, this doesn't feel right, and are more likely to bail out. If they don't, when they start to be devalued, where that is the logical progression, where the narcissist has taken that normal person as an intimate partner, primary source, spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, cohab. When they start to be devalued, that normal person will say, whoa, I'm not putting up with this. Nobody treats me like this, and they're going to retreat. So a normal person can be attracted to the narcissist because they're just interesting and fun and sexy and all of those things. A narcissistic individual can be attracted to a narcissist for similar reasons as to the normal. But it's the empath that has the most deep-rooted attraction because of the symbiotic nature of the relationship between narcissist and empath. The empath has an addiction to the narcissist. So a narcissist is drawn to another narcissist for the prime aims. A normal or a narcissistic person is drawn to the narcissist because they're interesting, fun, exciting, all of those things. An empath will be drawn for those factors as well, but what they don't realize is that underneath that, they're actually drawn to the narcissist because of their addiction to the narcissist. That addiction enables them to be an empathic person to the fullest extent. It allows their empathic traits to be exercised to the fullest extent. So, for instance, their empathic trait of being a truth seeker is exercised because the narcissist is habitually a liar. A narcissist may present as a damaged individual, so the empathic trait of compassion gets a workout, and so on and so forth. Also, certain empathic individuals are addicted because they're imprinted by the behavior of a narcissist upon them when they were a child. So invariably they had a parent as a narcissist. And then when they are an adult, they end up chasing the storm that is narcissism, that it feels like home. So of those 4 personality types that I talk about with regard to narcissism, all 4 will be attracted to a narcissist, but for different reasons. The one that has the greatest attraction and the hardest to deal with is invariably the empath because of the presence of the addiction, which means we pursue empaths above all else because they are easier to ensnare and easier to keep ensnared.
Okay. Hi, people coming in right now. Ash, hi. Okay, what's the next question? Randy? Uh-oh. Oh, we lost Randy. Hold on. We lost Randy. She must have fallen out. Her computer started updating. She just messaged me. Okay, I'll go to the next question. Hold on. Okay. Okay, so More Than Enough wants to know, does a psychiatric disorder have to always go hand in hand with narcissism, or can it stand alone?
Narcissism is its own disorder. It can be comorbid with other conditions, but it does not have to have a corresponding psychiatric condition. It is a disorder of itself. And for most narcissists, that is the only condition that they will have. They may believe that they have others. It's quite common for certain types of narcissists to believe that they're, for instance, bipolar, or that they have some other kind of diagnosis. And invariably they have not, but they believe that that's the case, and it's used to excuse their behaviors. So, for instance, I can't help behaving in the way that I do. I have been diagnosed as bipolar, and they may well not have been diagnosed, but they believe that they have, and their narcissism causes them to use that lie as a means for deflecting accountability and asserting control over the relevant individual that they are involved with. But it is not the case that there always has to be any corresponding psychiatric condition that sits alongside narcissism. It is of itself a disorder. It's described as a personality disorder, And those individuals, of course, that have been involved with narcissists will say that that disorder in itself is pretty much plenty to deal with, never mind anything else on top.
Okay. Let's see. Would you be able, I mean, there's probably more like red flags or traits that people should be looking for. Let's say if they're getting into maybe a new relationship. Are there like the top 3 traits that you could, or red flags that you could give us so that we might look for it to see if that person is a narcissist? Is there anything that really stands out?
Well, there isn't a top 3. Many people say to me, HG, I met this man, he does this, is he a narcissist? And I always explain that you cannot make a determination of one isolated incidence of behavior. It's merely an indicator, it's not determinative. So for instance, someone may say, this person sends me lots of text messages. Well, that in itself shows a sense of entitlement. It shows a lack of accountability for the behavior. It also demonstrates an absence of emotional empathy for the recipient, bombarding them, and poor boundary recognition. But that doesn't mean that person is a narcissist. Why? Well, we need to look at more behaviors beyond just that. And we also have to look at over a period of time, because in some instances, a person will behave in a way that's similar to a narcissist, but the driver behind their behavior is nothing to do with narcissism. So take, for example, you go into a convenience store and you walk in on a scene where there's a lady who looks highly distressed. She's throwing cans of beans around. She's shouting and swearing at the shopkeeper and trying to vault onto the counter to steal money from the till. What are we dealing with? Well, this person is being threatening, showing a sense of entitlement with regard to trying to take money, stealing it, showing poor boundary recognition, an absence of emotional empathy for the shopkeeper and other people in the store, a lack of accountability for the behavior. It's rather haughty also. So this could be a narcissist. But also, it might be that this is an individual who is under particular external stresses. And this lady has got 3 children at home. Her husband's not able to work. She's just lost her job and her card has been declined. And basically, that has caused her to lose her shit. And her empathic traits have been ground down by this external stressor of financial pressure. So she then responds with narcissistic traits of anger and argumentativeness. So in that scenario, we couldn't make a determination as to what she is. She could be a narcissist, but she could be a normal person or an empathic person that's suffered a diminution in her emotional empathy. So what you have to do is you have to look at a range of behaviors, and you need to look at them over a period of time. And in the romantic setting, it's about taking your time. It's about looking out for things such as excessive flattery. Somebody wanting to spend a lot of time with you. That's not natural. As an adult, you will have a job. You will have family. You will have friends. You will have hobbies. And so should other people that you meet. And therefore, if that person all of a sudden makes themselves available to spend so much time with you, that is a warning sign. Because if they're a mature individual, they would have other things going in their lives that they have a commitment to, that they would show accountability to. And if they're willing to drop all of those things to keep spending lots of time with you, that's not romantic and wonderful because they are focusing on you. It's a warning sign. It's showing that they are not showing accountability to the other aspects of their life. They're not showing empathy towards you because they're trying to monopolize your time. And anybody that tries to make you move very fast, although it might seem exciting and this person's really into you and they're swept up in you, again, that's a warning sign. So, for instance, somebody buying you gifts when there's no need to do so. It's not your birthday, it's not Christmas. They barely know you. Why are they buying you gifts? Somebody who perhaps badmouths their former relationships. Now, there are many people who are not narcissists, of course, who have been involved in difficult relationships. But what you don't do at a very early juncture is go into huge detail about how badly treated you've been by your ex or the ex-ex and so on and so forth. Some people may say, yes, I was married, but unfortunately it didn't work out. And they don't go into a huge amount of detail. You don't get a tirade about that person. Look out for vague answers. Look out for contradictions. And my book, Red Flag, goes through 50 of the most common of these red flags. So as you read that, you'll be appraised of what they are. But the point is this, that there are some people who are not narcissists who will present possibly with one or two red flags because that's just the nature of who they are. So you might meet somebody who is excessively polite, always opening the doors, opening the car door for you, always asking, are you all right? Are you enjoying yourself? And it's a little bit overbearing, it's a little bit smothering. But if there are no other red flags over a few dates, then that person is just excessively polite. They're not showing any other indicators which would demonstrate that they are a narcissist. So what you have to look for is a range of behaviors across a variety of these different red flags. And ultimately, of course, that you should err on the side of caution, that if you see these things, rather than give that person the benefit of the doubt, if you're starting to see them and they're stacking up, then you need to remove yourself at an early juncture. As I mentioned, in order to understand more about which of the red flags that you should look out for, my book, Red Flag, goes into considerable detail as to which ones you ought to look out for.
Okay. Randy, which book do you have of HD?
I think, is it Knowing the Narcissist? Is that the name of it? I looked for it last night. Do you have one called Knowing the Narcissist?
No, that's the name of my blog.
Oh, well, I guess that's what I don't remember. I looked for it last night and I couldn't find it, but I do have one of your books. I read it like the first time you came on, but I don't remember the name of it. I'm not a very good host.
Okay, you are a good host. Okay, let's see. All right, well, this is a simple question, but this is from Coffee with CC. She wants to know, and she, felt like it might not be a very good question, but I think that all questions are good. She said she wants to know, do narcs ever feel remorse for hurting someone?
No. Certain narcissists will give the appearance of remorse because the narcissism recognizes that's the appropriate response. So some narcissists never exhibit remorse. They adopt the approach of, what have I got to say sorry for? I've not done anything wrong. What are you talking about? And they go through life like the proverbial wrecking ball, never demonstrating anything that would be seen as a semblance of contrition or remorse. Others, which are mid-range narcissists, as per my classification, will often exhibit false contrition because their narcissism demonstrates that by saying sorry, and I know I've done wrong and I won't do it again and I can't help myself and so forth, that invariably the victim falls for that because it appears that the individual has come along and it's a genuine mea culpa. But over time, they will realize that the apologies are given, but the behavior keeps happening. And that demonstrates, of course, that the words are just simply that, words. Anybody who is a narcissist has no capacity for genuine remorse. False remorse will be expressed, but it isn't genuine. And because an expression of remorse has to be predicated on emotional empathy for another person. An expression of remorse is an acceptance that we're in the wrong. And if we accept that we are in the wrong in a genuine way, that means that our control over you is threatened because we are transferring power to you by stating that you're right and we're wrong. Now, we can pay lip service to that by saying, you're right, I really ought to do better. But they're just words that are issued in the moment to assert control and draw fuel from the victim. But there's no meaningful, no permanent, no enduring or long-lasting exhibition of revised behaviours that would be commensurate with the exhibition of remorse. So no, we are incapable of genuine remorse.
Okay. Let's see. Someone wanted to know, how to approach gray rock, meaning how do we finally get to the point of ignoring the narcissist? I'm assuming that would be for somebody in a relationship with a narcissist.
I make it very clear that grey rock doesn't work. You see, people think that they will be able to be this edifice in front of us, and they fail to understand the ways in which we get fuel from you. Your words provide us with fuel. Your facial expression provides us with fuel. Your body language provides us with fuel. The look in your eyes provides us with fuel. So when you stand there in front of a narcissist and try and say nothing, your emotional response by way of your facial expression, the look in your eyes and your body language will give you away. So you will actually still give us fuel, even though you're attempting not to do so. Indeed, you will often give a reaction, perhaps saying something before you can stop yourself, which again provides us with fuel. The problem with grey rock is that you will still give us fuel, which is part of the prime aims. And because you're still engaging with us, if you're an empathic individual, this means that you're entering an arena of interaction which feeds your addiction and keeps your emotional thinking high. Your emotional thinking is the enemy within. It causes you to make bad decisions. It causes you to think that you're doing the right thing. And in essence, grey rock is a form of emotional thinking, believing I can still have an interaction with the narcissist, but I tone it down and I'll be okay. No, what you need to do is apply the principle of go-so. You get out and stay out. Now, if you're not able to do that, yes, you reduce your interactions to the bare minimum. But there are some people that think, no, I won't leave, I'll just grey rock the narcissist. Well, it doesn't work because you're still giving us what we want. And I will defy anybody who's able more than a minute or so to remain completely implacable in the face of the provocations that a narcissist will give you. We will do or say something that will make you react. And ultimately, if you don't, we will then just withdraw from you and then come back on another occasion to assert that control over you. So those that say, oh, yes, grey rock's an effective weapon, it isn't. Because you're still giving us what we want. And you're also exposing yourself. You're exposing, so even if you're stood there trying to keep it together while we issue a vitriolic tirade, you're exposing yourself to all of that nastiness, the intimidation. And that is not good for you. And you're also increasing your emotional thinking. So grey rock is not the route to go down.
So do you think that, or it's not even do you think, is a narcissist a sadist?
No, not all narcissists are sadists. There are some that will have essentially a sadistic streak, but it is not something that automatically goes hand in glove.
So do you mind, am I allowed to ask questions, Diane? That's not
Yeah, go ahead. Because I do want to, at some point I can't let this go because he did so many videos on Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. I need to know if Amber is a narcissist, although I think that she is, and of course Johnny Depp, because there's.
Well, I mean, I think she is, but okay.
Go ahead, ask your question.
But I mean, you're a narcissist,
Mm-hmm.
and you know that hurts someone. You don't enjoy that hurting them, but you can't help it?
No, I do enjoy, because I'm aware it entertains me.
Really?
Yes, that's not. You see, because I'm a narcissistic psychopath, I need the reaction of people, but also I get bored very easily. So to me, it's all a game that people are there to be puppeted, to be owned, to make them mine, to cause a reaction in them. What would happen if I do this to this person? So when I was a lot younger, a lot of the time there would be this curiosity of, if I do this to this person, how will they react? Well, look at that. And it didn't matter that they were in pain or they were crying or they were hurting. The fact was that it was alleviating my boredom and providing me with fuel. So I knew that I was hurting them, and It was done for me in order, of course, to achieve the prime aims, and with regard to my psychopathy, to alleviate the boredom. And I do so because it's a form of entertainment for me. Now, bear in mind, I'm an aware narcissistic psychopath. Not all narcissists are aware. Most are not. So they will have an awareness that they're hurting somebody, but they're not doing it for the sheer jollies of hurting them. They're doing it because in their mind, from their narcissistic perspective, they're justified in that behavior because you've done something to hurt the narcissist, and the narcissist is defending themselves. So they don't engage in the behavior for the pure entertainment of it. They do it because they deem it necessary. So they don't know that they're doing it for fuel and control and character traits and residual benefits. They just think, yes, I know that I've shouted at you, but you deserve to be shouted at because you never do what I want. Because their narcissism has revised history to tell them that you're awkward and intransigent and obstinate, and that ignites their fury, and they lash out at you. They're not standing there thinking, oh, good, she's crying, I'm really enjoying this. They're actually thinking, well, so what? You're crying, but that's because you're recognizing that you've done something bad towards me. And yes, I've shouted at you, but I had to shout at you because you need to be brought back into line. And then there are other narcissists that don't even recognize what they've done, where you might say to them, why are you being so horrible? And they'll go, what are you talking about? They're actually oblivious to their behaviors.
But you're not oblivious to your.
No, I know.
I remember in one interview you said, someone said, would you change, if you could pick to have not be a narcissist? And you said, I'm quite happy with my life.
I'm very effective at what I do, so there's no reason for me to alter my behaviors.
Can I ask a question? Do you have any friends, like people in your life that, even though you are a narcissist, do you have any people that you enjoy being with at all? Like, friends that
I have lots of friends because I'm an interesting man. I'm very clever. I'm witty. I'm well appointed. I help people out. I take them to places, so they enjoy my company. Do I enjoy them? No, yes. They're merely vessels. They're appliances to give me what I need. You see, I don't enjoy them in the way that you do. I enjoy them, in inverted commas, in the sense that I'm able to control them, and they provide me with fuel, and they will allow me to access character traits and residual benefits. But
I'm sorry, I interrupted. Go right ahead. I was just going to say, go ahead. I'm going to shut up.
With my friends, because they're part of the facade, for the most part, they're treated well. Because I'm not with them often enough for them to threaten my control in a way that where I have to sort of bring them to heel. And in certain instances, if they do offend my need for control, I can do so in a way which is sort of a witty put down in the pub when we're all talking or whatever, rather than going over and headbutting somebody.
So HG, if you're out with friends that, are giving you fuel, what if somebody said something really funny? Do you genuinely laugh at it? Like Randy and I, sometimes we're on the phone and we just, laugh our heads off because we just can't help it. Or we're watching something on YouTube or listening to somebody on YouTube and we, just lose it. Do you ever sincerely get, I guess a chuckle out of anything that someone says? I know that you said that you do have a sense of humor, but if someone were, let's say you were at a party, you said this on the last interview, you're okay with joking around, but if someone makes a joke, because people make a joke about me all the time, they talk about my accent, whatever. If someone gears it towards you, you're not going to like it, and then you're going to turn it around on them. But do you ever just enjoy, laughing at all at someone's joke or humor or during your conversation?
No, the sense of humor is a weapon that's used again for the prime aims. So I don't find it intrinsically amusing I recognise that it would be appropriate to come back with a pithy remark that makes other people laugh, and their laughter denotes that they're under control and provides me with fuel. So if I was to watch a comedy program on my own, I don't sit there laughing to myself. There's no point. But if I was sat with somebody else, I recognise the social cues that are appropriate to fit in, to laugh at the appropriate moments. I don't find it funny in itself. I use humour as a means to an end.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because
So-
I laugh out loud all the time by myself watching stuff on like a movie. I just can't help it sometimes.
I don't all the time, but I do sometimes. Okay, so when you're with your friends and I'm using air quotes, friends, say they tell you about, because friends obviously talk, you probably don't get like intimate with your friends, correct?
You mean my male friends?
Yeah,
course.
but then, share things. Yeah, share things that you.
Oh,
wouldn't
you
share
mean
with
you mean intimacy in terms of?
I mean, like, you tell your friend, like, my mom is sick. You probably are not one of those people that's like, my mother is not well, or.
Well, I could give a rat's ass about my mother's health, so no, I wouldn't.
Fair enough. But if your friend comes to you and says, my mother is sick, do you have the capability of, okay, so you're probably going to say to them, I'm sorry. You're not going to mean that though?
Well, if a friend comes and says HG, I ask, how are you? I'm not really interested, but social convention dictates that that's what you say. And they go, well, I've had a bit of a bad day. My mother's not very well. They're responding to me, which denotes that they're under control and they're providing me with fuel. I understand that the accepted social convention is to then ask, oh, what is it that's the matter? And so they explain and say, oh, she's taken a turn for the worse, she's had a stroke or something like that. And I will say, that must be tough for you to deal with. That's my cognitive empathy. I really don't care. And I actually find it rather boring. They're going on, whining on about the ill health of their mother. But in order to maintain a facade and to control them, I will exhibit what appears to be interest and sympathy in the circumstances. And dependent on the situation, I can do the whole sort of, sound entirely sympathetic and invested in the situation and making suggestions in other instances. I may decide it's basically a case of, well, we all shuffle off this mortal coil at some point, don't we? So prepare yourself for the worst, matey boy. It depends on the circumstances. But I don't feel anything in terms of, oh dear, that's a shame. I merely recognise, having learned from my various interactions, that when somebody starts talking about that, the appropriate response in order to keep them in line is to express some degree of interest and sympathy. And much as it irritates me, in order to achieve that control, I will do so. But I'm not going to start hugging them and buying them flowers.
I have to say, okay, so I don't know anything about your personal life, and I'm not going to ask you anything about your personal life. But years ago, I had caught up with a friend from high school, and she had told me that her mother passed away. And I said, I'm sorry to hear that. And she said that she didn't go to the funeral, and I wasn't getting it. And she said to me, now this is someone that I knew all along in high school. And at the time, of course, I didn't know any of this. So she said to me, my mother is a narcissist. She said, I am relieved that she's gone. She made my life a living hell. I couldn't even comprehend it because, like I said, I knew her in high school, and I'm thinking back, I'm saying to myself, oh my God, all the time that I know this girl in school, she's living a nightmare. So if you, let's say hypothetically, had a kid and something happened to you and your kid said exactly what you said about your mother, that wouldn't bother you. I'm going to assume that if your kid said, I don't give, a crap or a rat's ass about him.
Well, if I was dead, I wouldn't care at all because I was dead.
Okay, let's say you were sick or ill.
Well,
not dead.
If it was conveyed to me that my offspring, not that I have any, but if I did, and it was conveyed to me that my offspring had issued that statement, "Oh, I don't care about my father, he's an arsehole," that would be challenge fuel. So, although it's a response related to me which gives me fuel, it's denigrating, so it's a challenge. So if that offspring happened to say it to me directly, it would threaten my sense of control, so then it would behoove me to assert control over that person, over my offspring, probably directly to begin with, in some shape or form. If it was conveyed to me through a third party, then I would assert control over that individual directly and my offspring indirectly by making a comment about them in terms of, for instance, well, I've come to expect that from such a cold-hearted, self-centered, self-obsessed individual. And I basically smear them in order to cause that person listening to agree that it was a heartless remark about me. Now, I'm not seeking that person's pity. The type of narcissist that I am, I'm not interested in pity. It's beneath me. But I still have to demonstrate that that individual, my offspring, is wrong in what they've said.
Okay.
Have you ever met any? This is going to sound so dumb, but have you ever met anyone that you wanted to change for? Like you wanted?
No. Why would I change when I'm effective at what I do?
So you can have love and
I already receive love. Many people have loved me, and that's fuel to me.
you know what I mean. So, but the answer is no. So
I'm able to receive love by seducing people and causing them to fall in love with me. Do you mean, do I want to love them?
yes,
And the answer is no, I'm incapable of it.
absolutely incapable.
I have no emotional empathy. And love is founded on emotional empathy. You see, many people think, and this is the narrative that's driven by my kind, that romance is love. It isn't. That's all the fairy lights and glittery stuff. In short measure, that's okay. But I've learned from my examination of people around me that love is based upon emotional empathy, which means exhibiting patience towards a person, respecting them, supporting them, listening to them, recognizing differences and celebrating similarities. In short, not abusing them. It isn't about buying them 100 red roses. It isn't about taking them on expensive holidays. Now, somebody who has emotional empathy can engage in a romantic gesture. But a lot of the things that we do are all about the show and the gesture, and there's nothing behind it. And because my kind are the ones that got in a position to create films, art, literature, what's written in Hallmark cards, we have corrupted this notion of love to make it seem like it's all about the romantic. I will cross the desert for you. I'll swim the ocean. I will crawl across broken glass. That's not love. That's just a showy demonstration of infatuation. But because this has happened so often, people who are not narcissists fall for this and think, oh, how romantic. He says he wants to say my name with my dying breath. Well, the likelihood of that ever happening is probably zero. But if someone was to actually say, I love you because I want to support you and be able to listen to you and be patient with you and to take my turn with the chores with you and to just be able to spend some time with you, well, that's actually more realistic and genuine, but it doesn't sound very exciting or interesting. So my kind's form of love, all of the stuff that I've just been mentioning, gets driven into the narrative and cons people into believing that when somebody turns up and starts saying, oh, you're my soulmate, you've been sent from heaven, and I've always loved you, but never been able to tell you before, buys you gifts and takes you to interesting places and spends lots of time with you and say, at long last, I've met somebody who truly understands me. All of those things, it's just all of the stuff around the edges. It's a form of infatuation, which is driven by the narcissism.
All right, this might be, too personal. I don't know. But I'm going to ask you anyway. You don't have to answer me. Was your mother a narcissist or your father?
My mother is still a narcissist. My
Okay.
father was not.
Okay. So so at what age did you know that you were a narcissist? I mean, were you different as a child? Let's say with your father. If your mother was a narcissist, then she probably treated you badly, or
She
had
did.
expectations of you that were crazy and you didn't understand it maybe as a child. But did your father, when you were a kid, give you love? And did you love him when you were a kid and things
No,
changed?
I don't have the capacity for love, so I didn't love him. He demonstrated love towards me, but it was in short measure because he spent most of his time defending my siblings with regard to my mother, which is why they did not turn out in the way that I did. He seemed to recognize that there was something different about me because he said to me words to the effect of, "You will be able to manage," which, said to a small boy who is being abused, seems like an abrogation of responsibility. Looking back on that, knowing what I know, he evidently saw something different about me and thought that I would be able to cope. And therefore, in a sense, he cut me adrift.
So your other siblings were getting protected by your father for the abuse that your mother was giving
Yes.
them. You didn't.
So he was, in effect, the intervener that shielded them.
Mm-hmm. Oh boy.
Maybe you just built the. Okay, I'm not going to diagnose you.
Someone is of course in the chat. They're asking, were you professionally diagnosed as?
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
So what? You never talk about the psychopath part.
Well, I do.
I mean, on here. I mean here.
Well, in part, narcissists are far more prevalent, and most people are going to come across narcissists rather than psychopaths. So one leans towards talking about that more in order to enable people to understand that side of things. With the psychopathy, what you have to understand is that I'm a hybrid, and I will be releasing more work that's in progress that talks about the pure narcissist, the pure psychopath, and then my ilk, that's the narcissistic psychopath. So that will go into greater detail. So there is material on my blog and on the YouTube channel that does focus more on the psychopathy than the narcissism, but the behavior of narcissists is far more widespread and prevalent, and that's really where more people are going to be affected by that. So I've tended to focus on that in terms of explaining it. With regard to the psychopathy, there is more work that I'm doing with regard to that. But one, you have to understand that I'm a hybrid of the two things. So in essence, I need fuel. I need the responses of people, the emotional responses from people, but I don't need it as much as a pure narcissist. So I can be away from people for a longer period of time compared to a pure narcissist. I don't experience fear or anxiety. A pure narcissist does.
Wow.
I have the emptiness of the psychopath. You see, a psychopath embraces that emptiness. The narcissist fights against it. The psychopath is that chasm that just moves amongst people, that they sit in a way comfortable with that they are loners a lot of the time, because they don't need people in the way that a narcissist does. They utilize people to alleviate the boredom because they're things to play with. Whereas a narcissist needs people to enable them to feel powerful in order to deal with the emptiness by filling it up with fuel. So there are differences between those three categories. And as I've mentioned, I'll be going into that in greater detail with regard to work that's in progress.
A lot of people associate psychopaths with people like Ted Bundy, right? Who become serial killers. Being a psychopath, like you're a psychopath, but you've never like harmed an animal or anything like that.
There are a lot of myths, of course, that are propagated by television and by film. The idea of it's a knife-wielding nutcase And of course, most of the individuals who are psychopaths don't behave in that way. There are those with a low cognitive function that find themselves getting caught out. They can't control their impulsivity, they're law breaking, and they end up in the criminal justice system. Those with a higher executive function evade and manipulate those systems, and they end up chairman of the board. They end up in government. They end up becoming rather wealthy, and they move amongst everybody. And there are those individuals who are at the forefront of, for instance, law and medicine. For instance, a psychopath lends themselves to medicine by way of a surgeon, by seeing you merely as an object that's to be dealt with, and it isn't revulsed by the fact that, oh, this is human flesh I'm cutting into. They're just dealing with you as an object. So a high-functioning psychopath would make an excellent surgeon for you. A low-functioning one, not so much, because they botched the operation.
Are you very patient and controlled?
I exhibit patience where I deem that it's appropriate. Of course, my mind will be thinking different things about the person that I'm dealing with, but there are certain instances, because I have a high level of control over my ignited fury, that I recognize that it would not be a good move to suddenly start going lashing out at people, say in a public setting, because that would then result in, because I think ahead, that would result in loss of control over many people. So take, for example, if I'm at a dinner party and my girlfriend makes a remark which challenges me, I need to assert control over her. If I was to suddenly punch her in the face at the dinner party, everybody else would likely react and go, oh my God, H, what are you doing? So those other 10 guests, I would immediately lose control over. Now, less evolved narcissists could possibly do that. They assert control over the girlfriend by punching her and putting her on the backside. Then they lose control over the other guests, and lower evolved narcissists are haphazard in that regard. I wouldn't do that, because I recognize that if I were to do that, I have to have control over all of those people who are on my radar at that moment. So I'm more likely to lean in and whisper something nasty in her ear, which causes her then to back down, which gives me control, and everybody else who sat around the dinner table is none the wiser. Thus, I have maintained control over everybody who is on my radar at that moment, which are 10 other guests and my girlfriend.
Okay, so I was going to try to fit in Amber Heard, but someone, and you've also been covering Meghan Markle, and you've been doing that for quite a long time. So someone
You carry on. We can extend the time if you want.
Okay. All right. So Meghan Markle, people are really curious about her, and you did quite a few videos about her. So this question is, what do you feel will be the outcome of Meghan Markle's marriage to Prince Harry? Will she toss him over? Do you think she's an narc?
Well, those who see my YouTube channel, I've done a lot of videos about her because she's the gift that keeps on giving, and she's so well publicized. It would be remiss of me not to highlight her various behaviors and use them to make people understand more about narcissism. I've repeatedly received emails from people saying, I didn't know anything about narcissism. I didn't realize what was going on in my relationship. And I came across your Harry's Wife series, and it's caused me to realize I'm involved with a narcissist. Thank you very much. So it very much serves a purpose with regard to the extension of my legacy and educating people. I have done videos called The Future, which address what's going to happen between the two of them. As to the question, is she a narcissist? Absolutely she is. And I've set out in detail why that is. Where will it end up? Well, ultimately, he's going nowhere. He is completely beholden to her, doesn't realize what he's dealing with. And whilst he's being abused, he doesn't see it. He knows, for instance, it's not very nice, the fact that he will be cold-shouldered or perhaps shouted at or demeaned in a particular way. But he will basically see it as part of thinking, well, she's under a lot of pressure because she has a high-profile position. People are nasty about her, and I've got to support her, and I've just got to suck it up. So he's not going to escape. She's not going to immediately get rid of him because he still serves a purpose. But there will come a point where there'll be a disengagement trigger. And when you're the intimate partner primary source or the a secondary source, but it's more applicable really to the intimate partner primary source, there are 5 disengagement triggers. So the first is we get rid of you because we found a better prospect. So the narcissist is cheating on you and is cultivating that better prospect, and then ultimately recognizes that they serve the needs better than you do. So you're out and they're in. So you become disengaged. Second reason is you basically no longer function properly. You are a malfunctioning appliance, and therefore you're not giving us what we need, so you're out. So if you have a breakdown, you're out. If you suddenly retreat within yourself, you're out. Thirdly, you cause us massive wounding, and such is the threat to our control. Rather than continue to try and control you, we jettison. You cause massive exposure of what we are, which again leads to a threat to control, and rather than try and keep hold of you, we jettison you. Or finally, essentially, you kind of see through us. You might not necessarily realize you're dealing with a narcissist, but you see through us and thus become too difficult to control. So it's a little bit like a country is invaded another country and there's an insurgency, and it just becomes too difficult to try and keep the country under control. So the invading force retreats and seeks somewhere else to invade, and that's what happens. So with Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, there will be a disengagement trigger in the future whereby she'll disengage from him and will instigate divorce proceedings, and basically she will kick him to the curb, but it's not going to happen in the immediate future.
Well, the first thing that came to mind with Meghan Markle was that she got him to actually, move away from the whole royal family. I mean, that's never happened other than, going back years ago with Wallace, the other royal thing that happened. I can't remember. What was her name?
Wallis Simpson.
Yes. I mean, that other than that whole crazy thing, she got Harry to move away. I mean, where they're living now in California. I'm not even sure.
Yeah,
But
well, I predicted that this would happen several years ago and said that she would lead him over the ocean. It is common for a narcissist to take such a step. He is the primary provider of those prime aims. So he is the jewel in the crown. So her narcissism guides her to ensure that not only is he under control, but he's removed from any potential interfering influences, i.e. his friends and his family. So where the narcissist unconsciously perceives that somebody else could threaten that level of control, the narcissist will smear, "Oh, I don't think your dad likes me." People in your family have made racist remarks about Archie. I think your brother actually fancies me. He came onto me, and so forth, telling lies that causes that person to think, "Oh goodness me, I can't trust them." And of course, when you've got this narcissist that is telling you that you're the most wonderful person in the world, is giving you plenty of spicy poontang, as I call it, pouring honey in your ears, and you think that you've found your soulmate, and then that soulmate tells you, a couple of your friends are envious of our relationship. Who are you going to listen to? You're going to listen to the narcissist and think, "Oh, well, I don't want to lose her. She's amazing. She's wonderful. This is fantastic." And my friends, yes, they clearly are envious. So they've been saying nasty things. Well, I'll just not bother with them anymore. And yeah, my brother told me to slow things down. He's just envious of the fact that my wife's better looking than his wife. And so, yeah, that kind of makes sense to me, that what she's telling me about him. And so all of the poison that's poured in the ear of Harry is done in a way that's honeyed. So he believes it. And the narcissist will invariably look to isolate that person. And of course, she's done it geographically. Some narcissists only do it socially, basically monopolizing the time of the victim so they can't spend time with their friends, turning up when the victim goes out with their friends. "Oh, what are you doing here?" "Oh, I was just passing and seeing how you were doing." No, it's part of the assertion of control to make sure that you aren't being led astray. But with her, she was, because of where she comes from, she was able to say, "Look," and use his vulnerability against him. "Your mother was hounded to death. Do you want the same fate for me? his empathy goes, no, I don't. And she says, well, let's get out of here. Because her narcissism basically realized that the royal family, the British public, and the media were too difficult to control, directly or indirectly. So she withdrew from them. But she had to yank on the train and take Prince Harry with her because he is the primary provider of the prime aims. So let's go to Canada and then eventually back into California. And as I mentioned earlier, I predicted that happening and it came to pass.
Wow. So, okay, so what about Amber Heard and Johnny Depp? Now, look, I watched a lot of the trial. I am really happy that Johnny Depp won. What are your feelings on, first let me ask you about Johnny Depp. Did you say that he was an empath and that he's not a narcissist, but he does have narcissistic tendencies, but everybody does in this world. But does it make you a narcissist? So what about Amber? What was your analysis? You know, as quickly as you can tell us, what was your analysis of Amber Heard?
Well, I undertook an extensive analysis of her behaviors. I actually did this about 20 months ago, again, ahead of the curve, identifying that she is a narcissist. And I put out a video, I think in December 2020, explaining that that's what she was, based upon the evidence that was available at the time. And then I revisited it as a consequence of the additional material that came out of her relationship with Depp and this trial to explain again why she is a narcissist. And I did so by looking at her extensive behaviors for a range of sources. I looked at a lot of evidence, a lot of material, not all of which I necessarily referenced because it was duplicating. And I created that series, Amber Heard, What Is She? And went through in detail the behaviors to explain, based upon the evidence, that she is a narcissist.
Yeah, and your link is being dropped to your channel in the side chat. So if anyone wants to really, hear about Amber Heard and even Meghan Markle, he has a lot of videos. What are you laughing at?
I'm sorry. Sweet's comment said, we all heard her genuine pain retelling the dog and the bee story.
Yeah. I mean, she was, listen, that whole trial was crazy, and her testimony and her acting abilities are just not good. And I don't know. I've never really watched any of her movies, so I don't know if she's a good actress or not.
Well, it was an opportunity for her to showcase her talents, and she failed miserably.
Yeah.
Because she is a poor actress. So naturally, narcissists are actors, and that's why so many end up in that profession, and often indeed play themselves. Kevin Spacey being an excellent example of that. With her, she is a mediocre actress, and she sought to take that to the witness stand, which is why we saw all of the various convoluted behaviors culminating in the magnificent "my dog stepped on a bee, turned face to left, and then grimace," which spawned a million memes and TikTok videos. And I've actually explained precisely why she did as she did, why she said what she said and what that meant, and why she did the grimace in my video, "My Dog Stepped on a Bee." So I'd encourage those that are listening to go and find that and have a listen, and you'll find out precisely why she did that, and you'll be rather surprised at the answer.
Oh,
My goodness.
I'm listening to that.
That was crazy. I just have to say. And yeah, when you just mentioned Kevin Spacey, I just, it just came up on trending on Twitter about him. He's being charged with 12 charges of sexual assault in the UK. Is it in the UK?
It is. Now, as you know, he portrayed Frank Underwood in the US version of the originally British production House of Cards.
Yes.
And he is a very good actor.
He is. I always loved him.
Yeah. But you can see that much of what he's doing is actually just drawing on what he is. That there isn't this attempt to play anybody else. He's actually just drawing on his own inherent behaviors. And It's entirely effective, but huge success, of course, as an actor, and has appeared in some great roles. But as is the case with many narcissists, that his narcissism, in order to assert that control in the moment, has led him to engage in behaviours which have resulted in criminal investigations. The collateral consequence of his behaviour, evidencing that sense of entitlement, lack of emotional empathy, lack of accountability. And that's the case for many narcissists. And so much of that has appeared in the #MeToo movement is born out of an industry where it attracts narcissists like ants to jam, but also on both sides of it. So there are perpetrators, and then there are the narcissists that cry foul and claim to be a victim, when actually they aren't. And their narcissism causes them to believe that they're a victim and has resulted in false allegations. So you get narcissists turning up on either side of the fence in these situations. They will come running, certain narcissists will come running to it because it's a cause célèbre. It's like with Meghan Markle. She honestly believes that she's a kind person. She honestly believes that she is this bananitarian, as I often say, that's there to mop the fevered brow of the dispossessed, and she's there to stand up for the downtrodden. She doesn't stand there and think, I can't stand these people, but I will talk about them and support them. She honestly does believe what she says, but she doesn't realize that it's just a narcissism causing her to do that because she's a bandwagoner. So this week it's parental rights, this week it's I'll turn up at Uvalde and look suitably disturbed by what's happened with regard to the shooting of all of those children, and so forth. It's bandwagoning because it suits the prime aims. There's no genuine emotional empathy.
Do you cry?
No. Some narcissists do. Some really turn on the waterworks by way of a pity play in order to so there'll be certain narcissists that will cry about the situation because it's threatening their control. Others will know that the appropriate thing to do in the situations is to squeeze out a tear to look like they care.
Let's see. Let me see. Okay. Someone wants to know, what damage do you believe an empath child with a narcissist step-parent causes the child?
So the child is empathic and they've got a narcissist step-parent.
Yes. So what kind of damage do you believe it caused to that child?
Where's the natural parent in this scenario?
Oh, I don't know. They're not saying. Maybe.
Okay. Well, it depends upon the level of exposure that child empath has to the narcissist step-parent. There are some narcissists that ostensibly will utilize the child as an extension of themselves, so encourage them at their academic work, support them in their extracurricular activities, on the face of it, be kind to them because it suits the facade. And they may be emotionally distant, but in such a circumstance, there isn't really any major difficulty that's caused. Then, of course, you could have a different step-parent that sexually abuses that child or physically abuses that child, or wants the attention of the natural parent so that the child is left to their own devices. So it's a somewhat expansive question, because you'd have to determine what type of narcissist is that step-parent, because there are different types. How much exposure do they have to the child? Where is the natural parent? What is the natural parent? Are they an empath? Are they a normal? Are they a narcissist? To what extent are they shielding that child from their involvement with them, or are they a facilitator? There are some parents who they're not narcissists themselves, but they still become complicit in the abuse of a child, or turning a blind eye, or not protecting them. So there are lots of variables, really. So if that person who's asked that question is thinking of a particular scenario that's pertinent to them personally, I'd encourage them to organise a consultation with me so they can furnish me with the actual information, and I can give them a more detailed and accurate response.
Yeah, and Crime Canary, if anyone has, further questions or is living in a life right now with a narcissist and needs help to escape, HD does do consultations, and you can, find him on his website, or through his email, and you can email him, and all of that information is in my description. So that goes for anybody in the chat.
Do you believe, because I'm believing that this is not a learned behavior, HG. So this is inherited.
Well, narcissism forms as a consequence of aspects that are inherited, which is the genetic predisposition towards becoming a narcissist, but also as a response to the way that the child has been treated. So you have to have a genetic predisposition allied with a lack of control environment, Randy. So a lack of control environment may well be one where the child is being physically beaten, sexually abused, or left to fend for themselves, or they're neglected, or that they are given ostensibly what appears like a good home, but they are not emotionally supported, or they're told that they're absolutely brilliant at everything, that they are put in this gilded environment where they're told, you're wonderful, you're amazing, everybody loves you, you'll always succeed, so they never really have to try at anything. Or they're put in an environment where they're told, well, it's good but not good enough. You scored 2 goals, why didn't you score 3? You got 75% in your examination, why was it not 85%? What I call grade B syndrome. So you have to have both of those things come together. And if they do, and the lack of control environment persists for a particular period of time, and it's not set anywhere as to what that might be, then a narcissist is formed. So if you don't have the genetic predisposition, but you have the lack of control environment, no narcissist. If you don't have the genetic predisposition, but a lack of control environment, no narcissist. You have to have the two. And often what can happen is a child may have a narcissist parent. That leads to a lack of control environment, but there's an intervener. It might be the other parent, it might be a grandparent, it might be the school, which shields the child. You can also have a situation where a child with 2 empathic parents could become a narcissist. The genetic predisposition comes from further back, a grandparent, and it's skipped dad, and mum doesn't come from that environment. But the genetic predisposition has been passed on to the child, but they're brought up in a lovely, supportive environment. So there's no lack of control. But then one day there's a home invasion, and the child witnesses their parents being murdered, and they're helpless. They're not able to do anything. And in that moment, the narcissism is formed as a direct result of the trauma, where they had no control over those circumstances. Or the child perhaps is sexually abused by a sports coach outside of the family. Again, even though they've got a very supportive environment, the horrendous nature of that abuse in that instance almost sort of flash fries, if I can describe it that way, the narcissism. So in some instances, it's formed like a slow cooker as a combination of the genetic predisposition and lack of control environment. In other times, it's created almost in an instant because there's such a high level of trauma that it's like being plunged in a deep fat fryer. Again, there has to be the genetic predisposition and the lack of control environment, but that's what creates a narcissist.
Okay, let me see. Do you? Someone wants to know if you think that Amber Heard's child is in danger.
Well, she is a narcissist. Therefore, there is likely to be some form of problem. Is she in danger of being beaten? I can't say. Is she in danger of being left alone while her mum goes out? So she's at risk of something? I can't say. But what I can say is that because she is a narcissist, there will be some deficiency in the parenting in some shape or form. So whether it's a danger that appropriate services that would recognise and do anything about is another question. But the simple fact is, if you have a parent who is a narcissist, there will be some form of problem. The extent of how great that problem will vary.
Okay, so someone obviously who is listening to your story about your father wants to know if your father had protected and nurtured you, could he possibly would you possibly not have become a narcissist? Or
Yes, but if he had been that intervening factor, he would have shielded me from it, so I wouldn't have become the narcissist that I am. But that didn't happen.
oh, so do you how do you feel about your father for not doing that? Then does that bother you at all that he could have prevented you from this? Because you said that you enjoy your life, but thinking back on it, do you have any feelings that if he had done that, you wouldn't be in the position that you're in? I mean, like,
Well, what you have to remember is what's done is done, and there is little point in re-examining it. It is the weakness of many human beings that they have a preoccupation with the past. We don't own time machines, you can't go back and change it. So what happened to me, and here I am. However, what you have to understand also is that when somebody asks that question about me, that is a challenge, and therefore it's a threat to control. So I deal with it in terms of, say, for example, I might say, yes, he was a weak man and he ought to really have done better, so that I put him down in order to cause the listener to agree with me, thus meaning they give me control. So my response is predicated on the circumstances of the questions being asked and the appropriate circumstances. But effectively, my position is this. It has happened, there is little to be gained by keep going back and thinking, well, it ought to have turned out different, because it didn't. And that's a redundant approach, by thinking, oh, if only you'd done this. And that's something that I try and explain to the people that I consult with, that in order to move forward, yes, it's unfair, the situation you find yourself in. I'm in agreement with you, but if you keep going on and on and on about it, you're just going to stay stuck. You can't change what has happened to you. You can change now. You can change what's going to happen next. But there's no point saying, it's terrible what happened to me. I'm in agreement with you. Oh, it's terrible what happened to me. You've now told me twice. That's redundant. So in the same way, what happened to me, it happened. My father didn't protect me. He ought to have done, but there we are.
okay. All right. So someone is asking, is a malignant narcissism developed? In other words, can narcissists get worse?
What do you mean by get worse?
Well, I think she means like starting off at, like you had mentioned numerous times when you were on my panel, that there are different kind of levels of narcissism, right? So I think what she's asking is, can the extent of one's narcissism get worse over time?
A narcissist is a narcissist.
Okay.
There are different types of narcissists, but you don't become more of a narcissist. You already are one. Now, certain behaviors might manifest if there was a particular threat to control and the narcissist wasn't able to deal with that threat to control in the usual way that they would, then their narcissism might up the ante, so to speak. So let's say, for example, a particular type of narcissist would always assert control over you by sitting and sulking. But that doesn't work. And you don't react to it any longer. Therefore, in order to continue to assert control over you, the narcissism might shift that narcissist to start verbally berating you, perhaps being physically violent to you, which hasn't happened previously. So it's not that they've not become a worse form of narcissist, they just are a narcissist. The form of manipulation towards you has altered, dependent upon the circumstances.
Someone wants to know, do narcissists recognize when others know they are a narcissist and refuse interaction?
An unaware narcissist does not think to themselves, oh, they've worked out I'm a narcissist. it's translated as that's a threat to control. The narcissist doesn't go, yes, rumbled, exposed. They now know that I'm a narcissist, because that person doesn't know that they are one. What they do is they think the fact that they're calling me a narcissist, they're wrong. That's ridiculous. In fact, they're the narcissist. I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
So their narcissist protects them by saying, what a preposterous suggestion that is. So they reject it. But it comes through that lens, that filter, so that the narcissist knows, essentially unconsciously, that that's a threat to control. The fact that they have called them a narcissist, they don't accept that they are, but it amounts to a threat to control. In the same way, if they said you're an abuser or you're awful to me, it's translated. Every interaction that you have with a narcissist, or every omission of action, everything's said, everything's done, goes through a filter. And the outcome is one of two things, essentially. Are you giving us control, or are you threatening control? That's it. I love you. You're giving me control. I hate you. You're threatening control. What time is this? Where have you been? You're threatening control. Oh, you're so kind. I'm so pleased I'm with you. You're giving control. You don't reply to a text message. You're threatening control. You don't send a birthday card on our birthday. You're threatening control. Everything goes through that filter. So what people have to understand is, you will invariably look at the behavior through the non-narcissist eye and think, I don't understand why he's being so obtuse about these circumstances. And what you have to do is think about lifting the lid on it, peeling it back and seeing what's underneath. So I don't understand why he accused me of being flirtatious when I wasn't. So on the surface of it, we see accusation of flirtatiousness. Peel that back. What's really going on? Provocation to assert control over you and to draw fuel from you. Two of the prime aims. He's accused me of always spending money on myself and never giving him any money. That's nonsense. So on the surface of it is what I've just described. Let's peel it back. False allegation to assert control, to draw fuel, and possibly also achieve a residual benefit of getting money out of that person. So what you have to do is, when you're dealing with that narcissist, and of course the proper place to get to is not to have anything to do with us whatsoever, is to realize that you peel it back and stop looking at it through your eyes and think it will always relate to the prime aims. Everything that the narcissist does or does not do when it comes to other people is prime aims. So as I'm talking to you now and listening to your questions and answering courteously and politely, am I doing that because I am courteous and polite? No, I'm doing it to assert control over you and the listeners. I'm doing it to draw fuel from your responses. I'm doing it to manage my facade. I'm not doing this out of the goodness of my heart. I'm doing it driven by my narcissism and the pursuit of the prime aims.
Let's see. So I've been. See, I don't know who is Jimmy Savile. Teach my ash. I don't know who that is. Did you ever hear of that person, Jimmy Savile?
Jimmy Savile.
Savile. Okay. I don't know who it is.
Yes, Jimmy Savile is an individual who was famous in the United Kingdom as a television presenter and charity organizer. But then it came to light that he basically abused many children, young adults, was engaged in accusations of necrophilia, and was a particularly unsavory individual, and he hid in plain sight. So there's footage of him. He used to present a program in the United Kingdom called Top of the Pops, which was about the latest hits, and he's groping a young lady on camera, and it's almost got her reaction is, "Ooh, don't do that, Jimmy, leave me alone." Sort of the prevailing the attitude was, it's just Jimmy, that's the way that it is. And the BBC there were repeated complaints raised about him, and it was just passed off as, well, that's just Jimmy, he's a bit eccentric, that's just the way that he is. And also, he's such a big star, we can't touch him. And in the United Kingdom, there was a police investigation called Operation Newtree, which took down various famous people who were accused of unsavoury sexual conduct towards people. Rolf Harris, the Australian, Stuart Hall, a presenter in the northwest of England, and others besides. And a lot of it was basically, at the time, it was just sort of seen as, he's a bit handsy, but, hey, come on. If you're wearing a short skirt, so what do you expect? And with Jimmy Savile, he was a narcissistic psychopath. That he raised a lot of money for a particular hospital, and they gave him keys so he could come and go at the hospital, so he could abuse patients. He was able to go into the mortuary and abuse corpses.
Oh,
yeah.
I never ever even heard of this man.
There is a program on Netflix about him. I think it's called Jimmy Savile: A British Horror Story.
mhm.
It may not be well known outside of the United Kingdom, but and there were many people saying that they had raised complaints about him, but nobody did anything, and the BBC was heavily criticised. And obviously, there were schemes to pay compensation to his victims, both from the BBC and also the NHS, National Health Service in the United Kingdom, and Savile's own estate. But he was seen as this sort of gregarious character that he's quite funny and entertaining, but he was a very sinister individual that was abusing mainly young people left, right, and centre.
Someone in the chat said that he was in high standing with the royal family. Is that true?
He was friends, I believe, with Prince Charles, which again gave him legitimacy as, friends in high places. He used to, if I remember correctly, on a Friday, maybe, perhaps not every week, but at least once a month, he would invite various senior ranking police officers round to his home to sort of talk about the issues of the day. And it was just, all seen as, they thought, this is great, we're going to spend time with Jimmy Savile and he cares about the community. But basically, he was manipulating them. And all of these individuals, it was part of the cultivation of his facade. Namely, I'm friends with police officers, I'm friends with members of the royal family, I'm friends with politicians, I raise all of this money for charity, I'm a well-known presenter on the BBC. He had a program called Jim Will Fix It, which I think was broadcast early evening, late afternoon on a Saturday. And basically, children would write in and say, "Dear Jim, please fix it for me to play football for Manchester United," or something like that. And he would sit there with a cigar going, now then, jingle, jangle, jingle, jangle, and he'd wear all this big jewelry. And he was an unusual looking character. And I understand that just recently some footage has resurfaced where it's a letter that's come from an 11-year-old boy saying, "Dear Jim, please will you fix it for me for you to stop tickling me? And I want you to go and get the help that you need." And I think tickling me was obviously a euphemism for something. And of course, now people can see that with the benefit of hindsight, it takes on a more sinister interpretation as to what was actually going on. But that he was a serial abuser.
Wow. Yeah, obviously a lot of people in my side chat know who he is.
Because
and
of the
watched
Netflix.
it. Yeah, I've never heard of him. That's why I couldn't pronounce his name. Sorry. Okay, well,
Is there anybody? Okay, I'll just get a little bit personal. Have you ever had anyone in your life that you have felt protective over?
I will be protective of certain individuals because they're assets.
But only because they're assets.
Yeah, it's not because I have any empathy for them. So where I recognize that the person serves a purpose for me, and if somebody seeks to interfere with that individual, then I will protect that asset, but only because it suits me. So an example, a very good friend of mine, we were in a pub one evening, he's only a small guy, and another man accused him of making an unsavory remark about some women and staring at his girlfriend. Now, in order, my friend's very loyal to me and provides me with various residual benefits, and he was intimidated by this chap, I'm physically imposing, so I intervened and basically said, so what's the problem here then? And he immediately shrunk away from me, the aggressor, because he was trying to bully my friend. Now, I don't know whether he made the remark or whether he was staying with the girlfriend. He probably was, because he was drunk. But there we are. I was protective of him as an asset, so that the aggressor, I diffused the situation. I didn't need to use physical violence on that occasion. I was just able to talk to him, and he calmed down when he realized there was somebody who probably would take him outside and give him a good larraping, as opposed to he thought he could beat my friend up. There'll be individuals where, in my family, they serve a purpose to me, where, for instance, my brother was humiliated by a particular woman, and then I humiliated her because it was in my interests to be seen to protect my brother and cement his loyalty to me by standing up in his defense. I don't do it out of emotional empathy. People such as yourselves would defend a family member because you care about them, because you have emotional empathy. I do it because it serves my purposes. By the same token, if it doesn't serve my purposes, they're on their own.
Huh. So no empathy, no sympathy?
I beg your pardon?
So you can't feel empathy, and
No.
you don't feel sympathy either?
No. I understand what it is because I've seen enough representations and manifestations of it. So I've seen people showing those things. So I know how to behave, but I don't feel it. Everything that I do is self-serving.
And you don't care about animals, like you can't like love a pet, an animal.
No.
Oh.
I don't see the point of them.
Oh my gosh.
Listen, have you just never had one?
My family had pets, and I think they're dirty, disgusting things.
No, you go get a kitten.
No, thank you.
I insist. I guarantee.
Well, your insistence is noted, Randy, and it's rejected.
I'm telling you.
I can't imagine living without my pet. I mean,
well, let me put it this way: if I were to get a kitten, it would end up dead because I travel a lot, and there'd be nobody to look after it.
Well, that's okay. So that's something that people that are not narcissists will say. I can't get a pet because I'm on the road all the time. You know what I mean? There are reasons why people don't get pets. But
I don't get pets because I don't like animals. But I was also pointing out the sheer practicality of it as well. Like you're saying, get a kitten, and I'm saying, not only do I not want one, moreover, you have to understand that given my lifestyle, it would end up dead.
Well, I mean, I appreciate that. I just don't see how. I mean, of course, obviously, I can't understand anyone that can look at a kitten and not be like, "Oh, a kitten." But
look what Ash said. She said you might like cats because they're narcs too.
Absolutely, they are.
That's quite a common theme, actually. That people saying that cats are narcissists, and I regularly explain to people that have love for animals, and I say they only love you because you feed them.
Only cats, dogs, they love you no matter what.
Stop, Randy.
Dogs are
Coco
stupid.
was listening.
If you throw a stick for a dog, it'll run after it. If you throw a stick for a cat, it'll look at you and go, "Get it yourself."
That's true. That is true. But Coco still, I think my cat still shows me love.
Well, if you want to believe that's the case and it works for you, good.
No, the truth is, Diane, you can give your cat away and it's gonna love the next person too.
Oh God, you're depressing me. Stop.
No, I'm serious, because they feed them. Cats are different than dogs. Get you a puppy.
Cats are smart. You feed me, I like you. You don't feed me, I'm out of here.
I'm kind of that way. You feed me.
If I feed you, you like me. There we are. That's noted.
Yeah, tap me on the head a little bit.
All I need to do is feed you and read the alphabet, and you're putting in my hands. Very good.
No, shh.
Oh my God. Okay, so you're upset. I'm upset now about Coco. I'm just saying.
Coco says F-all.
Thank you, Lanky Tour.
Actually, I know I would have to be very careful with you, and I'm going to tell you why. I have some. I like to read and I like to listen to audiobooks Oh golly, I'm fueling you right now. I'm about to.
You've been fueling me all evening, but carry on.
Okay.
Did you learn anything, Randy? What?
Oh my gosh. But anyway, some of the audiobooks, some of the people that read them, you have a voice just exactly like they do. And I mean, like, have you ever done that? Have you ever thought about getting a little job at Audible? Because damn.
Well, I need to narrate my own books. That's the first point.
You should.
And, I did have a discussion about a month ago with a voiceover agent about me getting representation so that I can move into the field of voiceover. Quite simply because it would entertain me hugely that people are watching television and they hear my voice telling them how delicious the new BMW is, and they suddenly spit their coffee across the room and think, I'm sure that's H.G. Tudor's voice. So, yes, I'm repeatedly complimented on my voice, and I know how effective it is in a weapon. And I need to narrate my own work first before considering narrating anybody else's work. But I had the discussion about sort of, doing documentaries and voiceovers and advertisements and that kind of thing. So we'll see what happens.
Well, the author who wrote, and I can't think of his name right now, The Exorcist, he narrated his own book. It was 10 hours. 10 hours. And you can actually get it free on YouTube. It's on there. So.
Yes, I mean, there are, with what happened with the pandemic, a lot of people that do voiceover work don't have to go into a studio. They can just do it from home, and you can create a very good, effective sound booth at home, so you get the suitable quality to do it. And of course, there are many notable individuals, both famous and not so famous, that engage in the narration of books and so forth. So it is something that I would find amusing to do. And as I mentioned, I've had the preliminary discussions about it, but I need first of all to set aside some time to narrate my own books, because I repeatedly get asked about doing it. So other than the Narc Tales series, which can be found in my knowledge vault in the menu bar at narcsite.com, I haven't narrated any of my other books, and I know that some people prefer to receive their material in an oral fashion rather than reading it. So it's something that needs to be done and will be done.
Well, we learned a lot tonight. Like I said, this is the third time that HD has been here. I do have other videos on my, my page where he, on my channel, that he did answer a lot of questions for us. But I think
if you have any more, I'm quite happy to continue for another 20 minutes.
Well, we can do that. Is there any more questions for HD? Look, we also learned a term tonight that people keep hashtagging in the side chat. It's spicy poontang. We never heard that before.
I have another demand of you, and that's for your next book to be named Spicy Poontang.
Well, of course, I have my book Sex and the Narcissist, which is a real jaw dropper and eye popper, and if people haven't accessed it already, they really ought to.
Well, I can only imagine what that's like.
There are some people who form the view of, now there are some narcissists that provide you with an exceptional sexual experience, and there are others who do not. Those that do provide you with an exceptional sexual experience, if you read that, you will soon change your view, but it'll help you understand so much about the sexual interaction between my kind and our victims. And of course, spicy poontang is just part of that. And naturally, I use that as a phrase in terms of the dynamic between Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, that basically she poured on lashings of spicy poontang, which drew him in. And he was, I understand he remarked something along the lines of, she's up for it any time, any place, anywhere. And his head was turned by that, which of course, not all, but many narcissists are hypersexualized.
That's a very good question, I think. what gives you real pleasure or happiness? Can you feel happiness?
I don't do happiness. I feel the fuel. Pleasure, well, I have nerve endings just like you do. So, for instance, when I have sex with somebody, it's primarily about controlling them and drawing fuel, but also it does feel good as well. So, I achieve an orgasm. So, I have that pleasure aspect that's there. But it's chiefly sex is used for the purposes of the prime aims. The feeling good about it is a residual benefit. So I don't feel happiness, and pleasure is experienced to a degree. It's part of the residual benefit, but it's not the main reason one does something.
Yeah, Lee, I think we covered that part about genetics and, environmental, how you're brought up, and, to become a narcissist, and if it's through the genes. Correct? I mean, it can be both, right? HG?
You need both components.
Yeah.
You need a genetic predisposition, and think of it like making a cake. You have to have the right ingredients, and it has to go in the oven at the right temperature for the right period of time.
Okay, so Zombie McDoug, I think you missed my question about the name, location of the research on the genetic marker he says is part of his diagnosis. Okay, was there another part to that, Zombie McDoug, that I'm missing out? Let me see. Or if you can, just retype your question, because it might have been, I didn't see it.
So that does it bother you that so you're never going to be happy, correct?
No. Why would I miss
He's never going to
something?
be in love, and he's never going to love animals, because he doesn't need to.
What you have to understand is you're judging me through your lens, which I understand. So in your world, your world, not being happy, oh dear, that's not good. Not being able to love someone, oh dear, that's not good. Oh, not loving animals, oh dear, how tragic, you can't love a little fluffy kitten. But in my world, those things don't matter, because the things that matter to me are fuel, control, character traits, and residual benefits. So if we describe it as how do we get our kicks, you get your kicks from being happy, in love, and holding up small fluffy animals. I get my kicks from fuel, control, character traits, and residual benefits. We both achieve our kicks, but in different ways. And because you are empathic individuals, in a sense, it saddens you that you think, oh, you can't get the things that we do, but I don't want them. They're of no interest to me. It's a little bit like saying to a robot, oh, isn't it terrible that you can't enjoy the taste of a chocolate muffin? The robot goes, I don't need to taste a chocolate muffin. Thank you very much. All I need is for you to plug me in at the mains.
Well, okay, but that's because, to be fair, I mean, you've never felt it, so you don't know how great it is. I don't know what to say to that.
But the other side of it as well is that you experience sadness and I don't. So
you don't.
I'm not the one that's curled up in the fetal position crying my eyes out over a lost relationship.
So you've never been sad over a lost relationship?
No. Most of the relationships, I am the decider that it's over and I move on. And where that hasn't happened, then it's their loss. There we are. I'm irritated by it, but I'm not upset about it.
Irritated?
Mm-hmm.
It's in
the same way, for instance, and people say, how do you feel about death? Somebody that's had a considerable involvement in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when they die, it irritates me that they're gone, because that means that they aren't providing me with fuel or the residual benefits any longer. But I don't mourn their loss.
You don't mourn, really?
No.
So you don't feel grief.
I don't feel grief. I understand, of course, that other people do, and that's entirely legitimate for them because you have an emotional attachment. I don't. So your best friend of 20 years, who you share the highs and lows of and the vagaries of life with, been on holiday with, and meet up maybe every week for something to eat and a good laugh and exchange the gossip, goes under a bus. You've suffered a loss and you're emotionally invested. So I understand how you're upset about that. But to me, I'm not emotionally invested. They're just there to serve a purpose. And, oh, you can't serve a purpose anymore? That's rather irritating. Thanks very much for letting me down.
What about, okay, so and say, Randy, you're getting too personal, and then I'll stop. So I'm going to assume that your father has passed on.
Correct.
You did not grieve?
No.
I kind of envy that a little bit, to be honest.
Well, you make a valid point there, Randy, that there are individuals that sometimes say, I wish I was more like you, because of that ability not to be affected by certain things. Of course, there are other individuals that say, what an empty existence that you have. And I understand why people say that. But again, it's judged through their lens. For me, it serves no purpose. Therefore, I do not. I'm very logical, very evidence-based, and I'm not attached to people. I attach them to me, but I'm not attached to them. They're there to serve a purpose. And if you no longer serve a purpose to me, I may be irritated by that fact, but there's no point getting too irritated about it. I have to move on and do something about the fact that you're no longer around, replace you in such way, or so forth. I don't sit and think, oh, I missed the times that we did this. What's the point of doing that? It doesn't serve any purpose. It's redundant.
Yeah, but sometimes you can't help but
we can't help it. We can't.
Or you can't help it. You can't help it.
Yeah.
But my mind doesn't go there, because I'm designed differently. That doesn't, remember, how do we get our kicks? I don't get my kicks from sitting there thinking, oh, I really missed my best friend who died in a skiing accident. That doesn't help me get what I need. So therefore, it doesn't happen.
So you never have to you don't lay in bed at night and like worry? Or...
No, not at all. When I go to bed, I put my head on the pillow, and within seconds I'm asleep. And then 4 or 5 hours later, I'm awake, and then boom, I'm good to go.
I envy that too. Here's me chewing 4 melatonin gummies trying to go to sleep.
But it's important for people to understand that with these situations, it's not a matter of right or wrong in this, because there's no objective standard. So what works for you works for you. What works for me works for me. It's helping you understand the way that my kind function and operate. I'm not asking you to go, oh, right, now I understand. Right, that's fair enough and good for you. Because we hurt people. So I understand why many people would despise the way that my kind behave. What I want people to do is to understand why we do what we do. You don't have to like it, but you must understand it.
So you never have things racing through your mind, like, from the time you go to sleep and then wake up in the morning, like you just that never happens to you.
No, my head hits the pillow as I say, that's it, I'm out. I'm often exhausted by that point, because I often do quite physically draining things. So I'm ready to sleep. I fall asleep. There's no tossing and turning, no worrying about this. What is there to worry about? Everything I do is right.
Do you believe in God or a higher power?
If it suits me, yes.
And do you believe in an afterlife?
If it would suit me, yes. You see, again, I'm a chameleon. So if I'm talking to somebody that's interested in the afterlife, and therefore I would deem it appropriate to also believe in the afterlife, I will do. If I want to believe in God, because that person believes in God, and it would then suit my purposes to ensnare them by mirroring their belief in God, I'll do so. With another person, excuse me, with another person, if it suits my purposes to defy the existence of God, to antagonize them, I will do.
Okay, so you don't believe in God.
He's not answering your question, Diane.
I know.
Well, I am. I'm answering it on the basis that it depends on the circumstances.
Well, yeah, well.
So if you were in a relationship with someone for a period of time, not that you loved, but were in a relationship with, and that person believed in God, you would believe in God because they told you they believe in God, and to further your relationship, for the fuel that you're getting from that person, would you say that you believe in God?
if I deemed it appropriate that it would make it easier for me to control them, I would say that I believed in God.
Okay.
If I didn't deem it necessary, then I wouldn't.
Okay.
In other instances, I would actually state, no, I don't, in order to antagonize them.
Okay. Well, you
see-
do realize there are people that are not narcissists who are agnostic or atheists.
Oh,
They-
the belief or otherwise in God is not linked to narcissism. As you point out, there are plenty of people who aren't narcissists who don't believe in God.
Mhm.
So, and there are plenty of narcissists who do, because they use, as I've in my video, The Holy Narcissist, there are plenty of people that will use their supposed belief in God as a means to control other people. In fact, it's one of the most effective ways of controlling people. If you don't do what I tell you to do, you're going to be consigned to eternal damnation. Oh, well, I better do what you do then. I better do what you say then. If you don't give me 10% of what you earn, you're going to be consigned to eternal damnation. Oh, right. Well, I'll give you that tithe then. You better behave in this way that I tell you about. Otherwise, you're going to hell. Right. Okay. Well, I will do that then. And then how often do we see, of course, not all, but how often do we see the hypocrisy of those individuals who say, you must not behave in this way, and then they find out that they're a serial cheat, or they've been abusing children, or they've been misappropriating church funds. The church is a honeypot to my kind, because in a way, what greater power can you invoke to control people but that of a deity?
Yeah,
HG,
you're right about that. That's
someone wants to know in the chat, would you ever consider donating your brain to science if it meant to understand the brain of a narcissist?
Well, I need it at the moment, so the answer is no.
No, not now.
look. Have they done any studies? Do
Well,
we know?
As I've explained many times, death is the ultimate threat to control. And the reason why I create this extensive body of work is so that my legacy lives on. Because when this meat suit that I occupy, and a delightful meat suit it is, but at one point it will run out and I will die. Now, there might be the capability to download the contents of my brilliant brain so that I live on in some other form in some kind of cyberspace or whatever. And if that option were available, I'd take it. If my brain was needed to allow that to continue, then I would not donate my brain. If, however, you could download the contents of it so that I would continue a form of existence and you could examine my brain, then go ahead. You can have a good look at my brain and examine it.
I wonder if, anything does show up in the brain that would indicate, narcissism.
Well, there are various studies that are done, and as part of it, obviously, is linked to antisocial personality disorder with the amygdala and the size of it. And there are various studies that are being done that would denote that this accords, and that's more with the with the psychopathy. With narcissism, I'm sure that at some point, because of the complexity of the way the brain is, that you would be able to map it in such a way that you would be able to show, for example, by looking at this particular scan, we know this person's left-handed. By looking at this particular scan, we know this individual is an alcoholic. By looking at this particular scan, we know this person has that personality disorder. It just hasn't been unlocked yet.
What is your longest relationship?
Do you mean of a romantic nature?
Yes.
4.5 years.
Okay, so all right. So I have a hard time understanding that. Like, if you don't love, how could you be with someone for that long of a period of time, just for fun for you or fuel? I don't understand that. That's a long time.
You think so?
Why
Going
do
next
you
year?
why do you drive the car that you drive? It serves a purpose for you.
Okay, so, but that's a really long time. I think it's a long time.
Oh, I'm sure it felt like a long time for the other person, but I think in the scheme of things, 4.5 years isn't that long. Remember, so long as that person serves my purposes, then there is a relationship.
So, in other words, they were serving your purpose, and so then you were treating them well. So they were in a good position.
No, not for the entire 4.5 years. What you must understand is that when the dynamic between the narcissist and the victim, where we move to you, embedding you as the intimate partner primary source. So I meet a lady in a bar. She's a stranger, so she's a tertiary source. I talk to her. I charm her. I look good. I smell good. I'm witty. I'm at Bain. She's interested. We swap numbers. We go out on a date. We get to know each other a bit better. She's now a secondary source. And at the end of the date, there's a locking of lips. She's now an intimate secondary source. We go out on another date. Well, after the second date, we have sex. She's still an intimate secondary source. And I identify that I see that she will cater to the prime aims. And I want to move her into the position of being my primary source. So she becomes a candidate. And I lay on the charm. And I give her a good time. I don't go over the top because that's not my style. I'm more evolved than that. But ultimately, she falls for me. And I see that she's under control. So I then embed her as my intimate partner primary source. She's my girlfriend in ordinary parlance. She's enjoying the golden period. She's wonderful. She's catering to what I require. She's under control. She gives me lots of fuel, delicious fuel. She gives me the character traits and the residual benefits. And then anywhere between, roughly speaking, 6 months to 18 months, she will start to bore me. She will become stale. So either she's giving me all the things that I need, therefore it becomes stale, or if she's inadvertently rationing them, that is a threat to control. So whatever you do, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, you end up being devalued. So when you're the intimate partner primary source, you will always be devalued. And that's anywhere between roughly 6 to 18 months. Sometimes a little less, sometimes a little bit longer. So in that relationship, after a particular period of time, I became bored. She was letting me down. Therefore, she was devalued. But she still served a purpose because she could still provide me with fuel. I was still able to control her. I still gained character traits and residual benefits. So I still kept her around. Because if I got rid of her at that point, I would then create a hole in my fuel matrix. I've kicked her out, but where's the replacement? I haven't cultivated one because I'm not cultivating one when she's in the golden period. I'm not cheating when she's in the golden period. I'm not looking around for anybody else when she's in the golden period. That only happens when you're being devalued. And it might be in some relationships that people come and go, but there's no disengagement trigger. So there are some people that have a relationship that lasts decades with the narcissist because they don't escape. There's no disengagement trigger, so the relationship goes on and on and on and on. But she still served a purpose, and until the time that the disengagement trigger occurred, then she's out, and thus the relationship ended.
Wow. Can we interview her? I'm just kidding. That was a joke. That was a joke.
Oh, we got a chuckle.
You'd have to dig her up.
Well, no, I'm only kidding. I just.
Right.
I'm only kidding as well, you see.
Yeah, actually, someone in the
She
chat
didn't
said
catch that. I caught that, and
yeah, somebody in the chat said it, that we need to interview her.
get it done. No, never mind.
What, Randy?
He told a joke.
I know he did.
Okay.
I know.
She doesn't usually catch jokes, and
No,
you don't usually
ladies.
tell jokes.
Oh my
No
God.
falling out.
Are you going to tell all the jokes that I didn't catch, like the chicken, how many legs, and all that stuff?
No, because I'm afraid it would embarrass me in front of HG Tudor.
Okay.
What does HG stand for?
Whatever you'd like it to stand for. Holy Grail, God, His greatness, huge gonads, whatever you like.
Huge gonads.
Oh,
I knew you
my
wasn't going to tell me. I really knew. I just,
Yeah, I never asked him.
I know
I
because you
try
get
I'm very careful not to ask personal questions.
You
huge
can ask
romance.
me. I recognise that you keep dancing around asking me the personal, but you can ask me anything that you like. If I don't want to answer it, I won't, and I won't be offended. I've come here for you to ask me questions, so that's the nature of the beast. And so it's quite simple. You are exhibiting that you want me to talk to you. Thus, you're giving me the control that I require, and you're giving me some fuel, and therefore you're painted white. If you ask me a question about my circumstances, you're just taking an interest in me. You're not challenging me because I'm a more evolved narcissist. So I understand why you might have a hesitancy because of your boundary recognition and emotional empathy to go down a personal route. But you're welcome to ask those questions. If I don't want to, I simply won't answer it, and it won't trouble me.
And see, that's what I assumed. You just wouldn't answer it. So I go for the personal.
Yeah. If you ask me it and I don't want to answer it, I'll just say I'm not answering that, and there we are. We move on to the next one. Nobody dies, nobody falls out. You ask the question, I said I'm not answering it. I'm not compelled to do so, and I don't think any ill of you for asking me the question.
Are you dating anyone now?
I beg your pardon?
Are you dating someone now?
I'm not dating somebody. No, I'm in a relationship.
You're in a relationship.
Yes.
Does she?
I know you. I know that you're now silently weeping about that fact.
I don't know. My husband gets mad when I date. I don't know why, but
very good.
But so does she know that you're? Well, obviously she has to know because you've written books. Does she think she can change you?
I beg your pardon?
Does she think she can change you, or
no? Part of the reason why it's continued is that she's not gone down that road.
So she knows that you're a narcissist. She knows that you have a website.
No,
she doesn't know anything about you.
Do you think I'm an idiot? Why on earth would I allow somebody in my private life to go, oh, look, hello, look at all of this? No.
So you didn't walk up to her and say, hello, my name is Huge Gonads Tudor, and I've written well over 50 books.
No, of course not. I engage with her through mutual connections and use my natural charm and intelligence and knowledge about her life to draw her in. I didn't need to say, yeah, hello, I am a narcissistic psychopath that operates under the pseudonym of H.G. Tudor. And how do you fancy being abused? Does that work for you? Of course I wouldn't do that.
That's a panty dropper for me every time.
But so no. So she doesn't know that I have written all of those books. She doesn't know that I consult with people and so forth.
So she doesn't know you're here tonight.
No, because we're currently apart. I'm overseas, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. He is overseas, and it's very late where he is.
That's all right.
Okay. Well, you know.
So you're in a relationship, and she doesn't even know. This lady. See, I don't know who to feel bad for, you or her.
Well, why would you feel bad for me?
Because you're not going to experience. Okay, you don't want to experience it. I get it.
What Randy's trying to say is this woman's probably lovely, and
she is.
Yeah, I would assume you have good taste, and
of course.
And you're never going to get to experience from having a wonderful woman what everybody else does. You're going to miss out on that.
Yes, but I get to experience things that I need, so I'm all good. You see, you keep looking at it from your perspective, and I don't see the world that way. And I know why you do it. And
someone in the chat said, and it's all about the poontang. Oh my
Well,
God.
the poontang is both control, fuel, and a residual benefit. But
And let's not forget
think
spicy.
so many people are embracing the spicy poontang.
Spicy
Yeah.
poontang.
Where's the poontang? That's going to be a new word around here.
I love you, Uber.
I feel sorry for him.
Let me ask you a question, ladies.
Okay.
What do you see as the fundamental building blocks of a good relationship?
Oh my, there's so many.
Well, building
Well, you don't have
blocks,
to give
starting
them-
off,
give
sense
them
of
all.
humor. Well,
Yeah, big.
sense of humor. The first thing, obviously, let's just be honest, is physical attraction,
Yes.
then sense of humor,
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sexual attraction. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Them being interested in your, in your life
Yeah.
and what you're doing.
Mhm.
Honesty, trust,
Okay.
Mhm.
compassion, kindness, the whole opening up the door. That's something that, opening up the car door, that's something that gives me a thrill every single time. Never get
Really?
Okay. So when you meet somebody, how do you gauge their honesty?
You can't.
But that's a building block, according to Diane, for a healthy relationship.
Yeah, that's not. That's like up the blocks, Diane.
Yeah. I'm talking about overall in a relationship. Yeah, I'm not talking about, just the building blocks. I guess I got carried away.
No, you were explaining what matters to you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's so much to a relationship. Maybe some of the same things that you do, like compromising and working through bumps in the relationship, things like that. Those are all things that you can do. You do probably to, if you're with someone like in a good relationship, that you want to keep that person around until you get bored of them. You know what I mean? Like you'll go through the motions, but these are things that we do because we care. You know what I'm saying? Like, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, see, someone's dad is 92, still opens the car door for his wife.
Okay, and the person that has written that in the chat, that their father shows that courtesy, is he doing that born out of genuine emotional empathy, or is he just doing that because he's learned that that's a nice thing to do?
So you think that you're thinking that people that are not narcissists still do things because they think it's the right thing to do, like opening the car door because it's...
No, people who are not narcissists do those things because it's driven from a place of emotional empathy. You see, the behaviors of a narcissist and a non-narcissist, an empath, can be very similar, but they have different drivers behind them. So let's take, for example, there are 4 neighbors, and narcissist, normal, empath, and narcissistic person, but not a narcissist. And the empath is going to go on holiday for 2 weeks. They're going to go to Aruba, and they say, please will you look after my cat, Tiddles, while I go on holiday. And they ask the neighbor who's the normal. And the normal, because they know that neighbor and they've known them for years, they're within their circle of emotional empathy. They go, certainly, I'll look after your cat, make sure he's fed and watered, and I'll look out for him. And when the empath returns from an enjoyable 2-week soiree in Aruba, comes back with a large bouquet of flowers. Why did they buy that large bouquet of flowers? Well, they did it because they recognize that their neighbor has done them a favor, and it's a decent and honest and polite thing to do to show their gratitude. So that's why they did it. That was the driver behind their behavior. So the narcissist then goes on holiday. And the narcissist's gone for 2 weeks in the Canary Islands and says, would you look after my aardvark, Andrew? And I'll be gone 2 weeks. And the normal, because they have emotional empathy for that neighbour, goes, of course I will. And the narcissist comes back after 2 weeks and buys them a large bouquet of flowers. Why did the narcissist do that? Well, it's an unaware mid-range narcissist. And so they think they've done it because that's the right and decent thing to do. But we know they're a narcissist. So let's peel back that layer. They did it to assert control over their neighbour, draw fuel from them, and manage the facade, which is a residual benefit. Similar behaviour to the empath, different driver. The empath was driven by their emotional empathy. The narcissist was driven by the prime aims. Now we have the narcissistic person. The narcissistic individual says, I'm going on holiday for 2 weeks. Would you look after my pet tarantula called Amber? And the normal says, yes, I will do. Because again, they have emotional empathy for the narcissistic neighbor. And the narcissistic neighbor returns from holiday and brings a large bouquet of flowers. Now, why did they do that? They're narcissistic, so they have some emotional empathy, but they're largely driven by self-interest, not the prime aims like a narcissist, but just self-interest for their life. And they think, well, it's the right thing to do because they have done me a favor, but also I want to keep them sweet because I'm going away again in 2 weeks' time and I want them to look after Amber again. So similar behaviors, different drivers.
Right. I remember you telling us the last time you were on that if you were walking down the street and let's say an elderly woman fell to the ground, that most people would run over. I mean, just run over to help.
Yeah.
You said that it depends on that day, how you're feeling, if it's going to benefit you. So in other words, you might just walk right past that woman.
Well, it's not so much based on feeling, it's based on an assessment of how are the prime aims served. So if I'm walking with my girlfriend and it makes sense for me to show false compassion towards the elderly lady, because I can assert control over both my girlfriend and the elderly lady, and stock up the war chest of my supposed good nature, which I can then draw out as an anecdote at a dinner party, for example. Guess what happened on the way here? I'll also receive fuel from the pair of them, and it manages my facade. So I stop to help them. But on another occasion, I need to be somewhere in order to assert control over somebody, and I'm pressed for time. I stop and help out Mrs. Meghan, who's fallen over. That will delay me and impact detrimentally upon my ability to assert control over somebody else. Therefore, it's of no purpose for me to stay and help her, so I step over her and my way.
Yeah, it's so hard. It's so hard to. I don't know. It's so hard to understand. From a lot of it.
If you look at it in terms of, I know that it's sort of, from my conversations with people, I know that it's, you kind of reject it because your emotional empathy just does, well, I just wouldn't do that. But if you try and put that to one side and think there is an assessment being made based upon the most appropriate outcome for that individual, not the lady. For me, my response is the most logical one. You might not like it, but it is the most logical one. It's similar to when you have arguments about utilitarianism, and you're, for instance, there's a house on fire. You can only rescue one person. You can rescue the person that might bring peace to the Middle East, or your mother. Who do you rescue? Logically, you should rescue the person that brings peace to the Middle East because that is the greatest benefit to the greatest number of people. But emotionally, you're more likely to rescue your mother because you have an emotional connection to her. And that's the difference. You are driven, in the main, by your emotional empathy and an emotional response. I'm driven by a self-serving, clinical, evidence-based, logical for me outcome.
Do you ever lose your temper?
Yes, but not often.
Okay. All right. Well, it's like 9:16, and I think we've been on like over 2 hours. So I think we're going to end the Q&A here. Of course, I want to thank you again, HG, for coming on.
You're very welcome.
Q&A for us. People are genuinely always interested when you come on.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure down the line we'll have you back on.
Feel free to follow me back on Twitter, HG.
No problem. Julie noted.
Yeah, I tweeted. Look, you know, we had changed the date, and you did retweet. I think you retweeted my tweet. I'm Pink Pepper on Twitter. I don't go under my real name.
Okay.
On Twitter, but anyway, I sent you an email. Then I need you to
Yes,
look
I've
at.
seen that. Thank you. I will address that for you.
Okay. Okay.
I'm just Randy on Twitter. I think I'm at Randy's Life 1.
Yeah.
Randy's Loft 1.
Life.
Live 1.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a southern accent.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't.
Southern
No,
accent.
I just asked for clarification. There was no judgment there.
And everyone in the chat is saying thank you. People do find this fascinating.
Indeed, it is. I'm a fascinating individual, and it's a fascinating subject.
Well, it is. Listen, I'm going to be honest with you, and I think I've told you this. The last time that we had you on panel, I had never YouTube in the little community that we're in here. We have people here. I'm just going to say this real fast that call everybody narcissists. They'll say, I want to ask you a question. If a grown adult woman says something like, oh, you're just jealous of me, like they're 50 years old, and they say, you're just jealous. Is that person like, what do you think of, grown people who say that? I mean, is that a narcissistic trait? You're just jealous. You can't be me. You want to wear my skin.
Well, again, it's an indicator. You can't make a determination on that one thing. So
Okay.
That kind of remark is indicative of a narcissistic response, but you can't say, oh, that person is definitely a narcissist just from that one remark, because we don't necessarily know the circumstances surrounding them at that point in time. I take you back to the examples I gave you about the lady in the convenience store.
Well, I just find it odd that, people would actually say, you're just jealous. You want to wear my skin. You want to be me. And we have a lot of that, in our community. It's a crazy little community. And the word narc is used all the time.
It does get thrown around by individuals. And of course,
a lot.
Yeah, what often happens is that you will get certain narcissists that will use that, where for instance, about the whole thing about flying monkeys, which I have a particular logic bulletin about, that often, as I say, from one instance, you can't make a determination from that because that's unreliable. But if you've got that individual who habitually says to somebody else or to other people, oh, you're just jealous of me, then it starts to create a picture. And it is a narcissistic response, but it doesn't mean that person's a narcissist, because everybody has narcissistic traits. They have anger, argumentativeness, pride, vanity, showmanship, infidelity, and so forth. And it may well be the case that person making that remark is a narcissist, but you can't make that determination from that one remark alone. There is never any one thing in isolation that can be done that you go, you're a narcissist.
Well, you have a narc detector, don't you, on your website?
I do. And the way that functions is a detailed questionnaire which asks lots of questions about the individual circumstances with the subject, whether it's romantic, familial, social, work. And there's essentially a two-stage test. So when it's completed, I look at it and I make a determination, is the evidence in this answer credible? If it is, what does it tell me? Then the next one, is the answer to this question credible? Because I can determine when some people provide me with this information that it's vague, that it's amorphous, and that suggests, well, actually, how do you know what that particular point? It lacks particularization. And also, in certain instances, too much detail also tells its own story as well. So the starting point is, with each answer, I assess the veracity of the evidence, and then I apply that evidence across the various fields to see, does it get over the evidential standard? And if it does, then I explain, you're dealing with a narcissist, here are the reasons why. Or this person doesn't get over the evidential standard, and therefore they're not a narcissist for these reasons. But again, when people complete this, I look at, as part of the determination of the evidence, how long a period we're talking over. So sometimes people come and it's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years that they describe. Sometimes it might be a few weeks. There, caution has to be applied, because I say, well, the evidence you provided with me is only for a 3-week interaction. There are some indicators there, but I can't tell you determinatively that you're dealing with a narcissist, because we're only looking at a short period of time. And what I can say to you is, proceed with caution, or actually you've nothing to worry about here. But I can't say on that small period of time you're dealing with a narcissist. That would be unrealistic. But most people that submit them, they're talking about relationships that have gone on for a year plus, and so you've got a range of behaviours over a particular period of time. And most of them are for much longer periods of time as well, which then you're getting that spread of behaviour over that long period of time. Because an individual could be going through a very difficult set of circumstances which cause them to act in a anomalous way. And you, as I mentioned earlier on with the example of a lady in the convenience store, you look at that and think, this behaviour, she must be a narcissist. But there are other factors behind it. So you say, does she do this every week? Has this gone on for years? And there are other factors that are weighted into it, which are part of making the determination to ascertain. Because I recognise also that when certain information, for instance, I can see when certain submissions come in that the person submitting it is the narcissist. And the other person could also be a narcissist, because, as you know, narcissists collide. But there are certain instances where I can tell it's the narcissist complaining about somebody who is not a narcissist. Now, I don't go back to them and go, actually, you're the narcissist, because that's not the purpose of it. The response would be, this person is not a narcissist. Now, they probably won't like that, but I'm not in this to be liked. I'm in this to be accurate.
Yeah, we have, like I said, the word narcissist, other than that one time my, the person that I went to school with said that her mother was a narcissist. I had never heard that word before until I came to YouTube. Once I got here and in this little community that we're in, that word is thrown around left and right. People.
It's interesting, Diane, because on the one hand, there are huge swathes of society who have no idea about this. And they're affected by the behaviours and have no idea what it is that's affecting them. And then there are other aspects where it's thrown around like confetti. And you do see some people responding saying, I've seen it on my YouTube channel where they'll say, oh, you say everybody's a narcissist. And I go, well, you've clearly not listened to my material or accessed it, because there's plenty of people where I said they're not. So that's a response that's not based on the evidence, and quite frankly, you're an idiot. There are those that will bandy the term around. As I say, you can't make a determination just because somebody goes, "Oh, you're a narcissist." You can't say, "Oh, that person must be a narcissist because they've accused somebody else of being a narcissist," because it's a one-off instance. But you will get narcissists who understand a little bit about narcissism. They've read about it, and in their world, because of their way their narcissism frames it, they see the other person as the perpetrator, and they are the victim. So it makes sense, and they all say, "Oh, you're the narcissist."
Yeah, I did find out through having you on my channel for these Q&As that a lot of women in this community have been in very bad relationships with narcissists, have had narcissistic parents. It all, there were so many of them.
Yeah.
So many. Which I would have never known, right? I mean, having you on is how these people decided to, because the last time you came on panel, the one that's on your channel, I went into the comment section because some of the comments were funny. Someone said that I was taking jabs at you. The interviewer was taking jabs at HD.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I was like, no, I was just asking questions. Like I said, that was me, I said I wasn't taking jabs.
No, you weren't. You're asking questions. That's what happens with an interview. So
yeah.
that individual, well, I'm not sure what their problem was, but they
I
were
just thought it was funny. I thought it was funny. So, and then someone else said, because I had talked about my ex, and I said that he used to, when he got mad at me, he used to break things that he knew I loved. Now, I don't believe he was a narcissist. I believe he was just an asshole. And he knew that pissed me off. Other than doing that, he never showed any other of those narcissistic tendencies.
Yeah.
So she said, or whoever it was said, I can't believe that woman didn't think that, that man was a narcissist. I just don't really think so. I think that was the only thing that he did. And I just think that there are just general assholes in this world. Not everybody is a narcissist.
Well, no, clearly not everybody is a narcissist. And there will be people who behave like an asshole, a dickhead, whatever, a douche canoe, whatever you want to call it. Because human beings are prone to making mistakes. What you have to look at is how often is it occurring? What are the circumstances which is occurring? So if you are working long hours and you're really tired, you might come back and be a bit snippy and dismissive with your spouse. You give them short shrift. It's not very nice. It doesn't mean you're a narcissist. It might be because your emotional empathy for them has been eroded by the external stressor of fatigue. And you just do it the once, they get upset, you apologize, you don't do it again. So that just shows that behavior, it's normal people and empathic people are not saints. I've explained previously, for instance, with criminality, many criminals are narcissists, but the bulk of them are normal people. Because many normal people, they care about ma and pa and their kids, but they don't care about the stranger who they're burgling. Mm-hmm. And there are far more normals on the planet than there are empaths and narcissists. So a lot of criminals are drawn from the normal set. And that's why you'll get certain criminals who are known for, they look after their children and they defend their mum's integrity, but they're a horrible, nasty piece of work that's tortured somebody who's impinged on their territory drug dealing, because that person they have no emotional empathy for because they're outside of their circle of emotional empathy. And there's the external stressor of them taking their territory, so they lash out at them. So all people are capable of behaving in ways that would be generally accepted as bad or wrong or nasty. But you've got to look at what are the circumstances, regularity by which it happens, the period of time over which it happens. in order to make that assessment. And as I repeatedly explained, empathic people are not saints.
Yeah, like I said, I know that he did it because he knew it would make me cry. And he just wanted to be a jerk. And over the course of the years that we were together, it wasn't like he did it every day. He
Yeah.
didn't set out every day to, make me cry. It was just, he just knew that if he broke something of mine that I really held dear because someone made it for me or gave it to me, he would destroy it.
Yeah.
So, but I still don't think that he was a narcissist. He's an ex for a reason. He was an asshole. There were more things that he did, but I still don't think that he was a narcissist, because he went on to have, children with someone else, and he's a loving father and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I definitely don't think so. Just he was an asshole. All right, so I think we're gonna end it here. Again, thank you very much
You're welcome.
for coming up here and answering all of our questions. And now I know for the future that you don't mind if we ask personal questions. You don't have to answer them. You'll just, deny the question. But that's it. Thank you again for coming. And please send me what you need to send me in an email. And we'll see you another time.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Well, I think we had a really good question and answer session here. We learned a lot of things. We learned, what's that word now that we're gonna always
Spicy poontang.
Yes.
Spicy poontang.
Yeah.
The spicy poontang.
Yeah, that's gonna be a new word around here. Sweet already used it a couple of times tonight in the side chat.
No merch coming soon.
Yeah, new merch. Yeah. Speaking of merch,
Absolutely. Merch is, well, understand copyright's mine. So if you're trying to merch, I'll come after you.
Oh.
Oh my goodness. No, we can't do that. We cannot do that. No copyright. We have a lot of problems with that. We have a girl in the true crime community being sued by, I don't know if I think it's a news station during the Gabby Petito trial. She was using their stuff and kind of just playing it on her channel and walking away and playing it for hours and hours. And they gave her a copyright strike on YouTube, and then she bought it, and she ended up winning as far as the YouTube part. So she put the videos back up, and now they're taking her to court and suing her for like $1.8 million. Oh, she put her watermark over theirs. So now she's trying to get money together for an attorney, because copyright infringement is serious. It's expensive to go to court for copyright. And so we will definitely not take your term and put it on any merch.
You're welcome to use it.
I knew it.
Wow. All right.
You have my blessing with regard to the spicy poontang.
Randy, do you need me to make that for you?
Yeah, I can't design anything. Is that bad?
Yeah, I have. All my merch that I have now is not channel related at all. It's all really nice sayings and designs, and no one can get me for copyright on those things, because I had somebody help me design them. Anyway, all right.
Good.
I'll make sure to get that. I'll do that for you, Randy.
Okay. All right. It was so nice to meet you.
You're very welcome. Pleasure also.
All right. So everybody, listen, thank you for coming. Have a fantastic weekend. And I'll be back maybe next Tuesday. Randy goes live tomorrow night on her channel. And either next Tuesday night. We'll go back to a little bit more drama. or next Thursday. So thank you for coming, everyone, and we'll see you soon.